Good day there everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Bottom Tier Not a Problem. And for this series we'll be showcasing a bottom tier tank of a certain class playing on a specific map, and for today that will be the Panzer 58 Mutz, playing in a predominantly tier 10 match on steps. Now, for future videos, it won't solely pertain to tier 8. It, for instance, could be a tier 6 TD on Himmelsdorf. That way, as this set of videos continue, there will be a thorough library, if you will, that everyone can just have a quick reference of ways in which, as a bottom tier, you can make use of to aid in the what many would see as an arduous uphill battle played as a bottom tier tank. So, one thing I must add is, as we go along with these videos, what I showcase isn't necessarily set in stone. I'm merely putting forth positions, tactics that one can employ as they play your specific matches. Now, as we get into today's video, starting the match off, I'm going to begin a little bit of music, and I implore everyone merely sit back and relax as we go along and have a look at just how we can play Panzer 58 Mutz as a bottom tier. Now, before we even get into the match, what's going through your head at the moment? Well, for me, I have a cursory glance over here at the enemy team comp. You can see they've got a fair number of top to mediums, but at the same time, we have the majority of mediums. So that usually indicates there will be a push going off on the eastern side of the map over here on the 8-9 line. So we're going to go ahead and start off by going that direction. Now, before we quite get into position out the gate, let's have just a brief look over at StratSketch so we can get a further idea of how things will play out. Now, looking at StratSketch, the first thing you will see are these rather large white zones. If you can at all help it, you need to avoid these, especially if it's early game, and if it happens to be late game and you do need to traverse these no man's lands. Take account of what the enemy team has left. Let's say if it's a light tank or a TD, a medium, anything with decent view range, be very wary because they're probably going to be in one of the bushes off of the cap. Now, we are starting from the northern spawn, so obviously we're going to be the red icons on this. The enemy team being the green, they got the southern spawn. So, as I'd said, we do have the majority mediums. Hopefully, that will indicate that they will come up here, get on the 8 line, and further come up to where I've got this second set of icons. You can be incredibly aggressive, possibly one of them will go to the rock, and another one further up where Osber and Bullet, the two members in our platoon, happen to go. Now what we're going to do is be where this blue icon is right here. There is a little defilade we're going to play in, and this does one of two things. It puts us in a position to where we can easily further go up with our mediums if they happen to push, or we can back off, go over here, redline it, and extricate ourselves if things go awry. Now, we need to be in a spot, which is why we're going here, to where you're in close support, but at the same time, you can move. which is one of the reasons why if you're a bottom tier, you really don't want to be going up to this rock, because once you get there, it's incredibly hard to get out of it. So once again, we're simply going to be taking this little defilade and focusing on that. Now there'll be a lot of things that transpire during the match, and we'll get into those. I'll probably slow it down at the time and we'll go further on it, but this is just a general idea of how things will be laid out at the very beginning. Now let's go ahead and pop right back into the match and see exactly how this will play out for us. So continuing on and getting up to our little defilade right over here. It's a very handy one. Now, you don't necessarily need a good amount of gun depression for this. You can walk yourself up, just barely peek. Now, we neither have the armor or the hit points to necessarily be sitting here and letting our shots aim in. So you'll notice we back and forth very quickly, just barely letting it go in, getting a shot off, and making certain that we don't lose all of our hit points early game, because we need every little bit of it to do as much as we can if a push occurs. So come up again, pop, take a shot, and immediately back off. And this is something you'll do even if you don't have the best of gun handling on your vehicle. Now, slowing things down just a touch. T-54s are not really being aggressive here, and the enemy team is starting to push up the 9th line. So as I'd said in Starshield, what we're going to do is back off, come round here and come up on the red line. We do this for a couple of reasons. Back in Starshield, you may have noticed that on the minimap, sometimes the TDs that will sit over at G0. He will not be within draw distance in order to shoot us as we come up, which is precisely why we're doing what we are here. Now the T-54s will further back off, and what we will do is come up to this lip where the Scorpion's at. We're hopefully going to take a shot at a couple tanks as they come across and push with their team, so we can get a bit of damage off even though we're effectively relocating, but we're still having a presence, making them thinking that we haven't completely gone out of the fight, because yes, we are a bottom tier tank, but just having that presence will slow down the enemy team. Now the T-54s have continued to cut back even further. We need to get out of here. Unfortunately, as you can see, Bullet and Osber have been penalised for staying where they are. They're not top tier tanks, they don't have the armour, they cannot be the anchor. So since this side is failing, what we're going to do is concede it to them, but come over here and save, or at the very least help our E100 and Type 5. There are two reasons for doing this. Chiefly, this allows us to shoot tanks in the aft end or in the sides, which is what we need to be doing as a bottom tier tank. It guarantees us doing damage, and two, we're going to save our top tier vehicles, which we need them, especially late game. They need to be the ones taking the hits. They're the ones that can block the armor. We need to keep them alive. So we're going to get the medium off, we're going to get the LTTB out, and that affords us to come over here and consolidate this side of the map, because we've lost the eastern side. So we need to come over here and make certain we've got this portion of the map. Our top tier tanks, heavy tanks, are healthy and able to assist us take the game back. And even better yet, we're backing off this AMX and giving our Batchet the ability to come up in here and hose him. So we are a bottom tier tank, but for the third time we are being a presence. We are being a threat to the enemy. So Batchet's coming in, we've got the E5 back behind this corner, we're going to go ahead and push this AMX. And this is something you never ever must be afraid to do, is push as a bottom tier tank. If you've got the hit points to do it, you know you're not going to die in the process. by all means push if it means you get some sort of map control out of this. And now, since we've got the western side of the map to our own, the enemy tank is all on this 5-6 line, we're now going to come up here, make use of the ridge in front of us, and shoot them as they come in, because as you can see, the 430's coming up the middle, we've got an E4 cutting across the back inside, and this is exactly what we want to be doing as a bottom tier tank, getting these side shots in. And getting a fair bit of damage doing it in the process. Now things will get a bit tricky here because unfortunately we've lost our E50M on the back inside, and we've now got a 140 pushing over, and we've got a 430, as you can see now, pushing up, and he's going to get behind this building. So slowing it down just a touch. What this means is they will have this back side of the map. We cannot really afford to sit where we are. What we need to do is further go around the side and see if we can get any vehicles detected over here, and then decide what to do from there. And chief thing I want to mention here as well, we've got a rock between us and the enemy. If you're ever in one of these positions, if you don't have a bush you can make use of, find a rock and hull up next to it. But that doesn't mean you have to stay there. Just be very wary of your surroundings. It can make all the difference. Now we're going to try and get a shot of the 140 as he crosses. They've got even further command of this. But since we've got the 140 down here, T26E5 over on the other side, this allows us to come up and get underneath like what a Panther 88's doing. Slowing it down once again. Because all we've got is this T26E5 spotting us, a lower that's ostensibly going after our batshit, because he's going after artillery, so he's not going to be looking at us. Now there's another thing to bear in mind. Watch the low. As we come up over here, he's going to blink out, but pausing it, he's still lit on the minimap. What this means is this yellow line here. This is the finite distance that you can see the enemy and shoot them, and in turn that they can shoot you. So what that means is if we sit in this position, we will not be able to be shot from the low, which is good because that means we can be aggressive up here, shoot the 140 quick, and we can afford to do that for two reasons. One, the aforementioned low is outside the draw distance, and two, if you've been keeping a keen eye, that E4 is sitting behind that hill. Now he is poking out here, and that is one thing you must always keep in mind. What is looking at you? Now obviously this isn't particular to a bottom tier tank, but it certainly makes all the difference. Now the Panther 88 did die, but this 26E5, if you would have been keeping track, is low HP. We've got a hit point lead on him, so we're going to remove him from the battle. As I said before, never be afraid to make use of your hit points if it means getting a target out. Now the load did come back, and since he did, I'm going to slow it down here, we're going to get down in this leap. It's not just draw distance you need to keep in mind, it's line of sight, and since we're underneath this ridge, and that low is up top over here, he cannot shoot us. Now it's been 6 seconds, which means we're not detected anymore, so we're going to come up back here, and go as far west as we can, to get back outside draw range of that low and engage the T124. Now this isn't necessarily particular to bottom tier vehicle, but this is an E4 and it's got a weak spot that happens to be on the top knot of it. We do have enough pen, but at the same time we loaded APCR. We're not going to be chancing things. Now the low's back up. You saw we immediately cut to the rock. We did get lucky there, but that is once again, always bear in mind rocks. Try and keep them between you and the enemy. Now, that is the end of this match. There are a few things that possibly we could have done better here, but I believe this illustrates a fair number of things that you can make use of as a bottom tier tank. So, hopefully you found this all rather informative and, if not entertaining, and I will catch you on the next one. So, take care in the meantime, everyone.